All right, so ready to dive in.
Always.
Awesome. This week, you've sent in a really interesting collection of stuff from Japan. Looks like a mix of online articles and some social media, huh?
Yeah, lots to unpack here.
You seem to be keeping a close eye on things over there, especially anything related to art, culture, and tech.
Japan's always pushing boundaries.
Totally. I'm seeing headlines about AI characters, award-winning buildings, oh, and some ridiculously cheap sushi deals. Can't forget those.
Sounds like a good mix. You ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Okay, so first up, we've got this theme of tradition meeting tech. It's really cool to see these classic Japanese kokeshi dolls, which represent, what, centuries of craftsmanship,
Right.
right alongside all this news about AI and the metaverse.
It is pretty wild how those two worlds are colliding. One article that caught my eye was about the mobile game, Fate Grand Order.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
They're introducing a new character. And get this, it's designed entirely by AI.
No way, really?
Yeah, and it's based on the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun.
Wow, what a mashup. Ancient Egypt meets Japanese gaming. Do you think that's just a one-off, or is this like a sign of a bigger trend? I mean, weaving ancient history and mythology into, like, cutting-edge tech.
Hmm. Good question. It definitely makes you think about how cultures are evolving in this like digital age. I mean, how will we experience history in the future? It's pretty mind-blowing.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on
Yeah.
from the digital to something a bit more, well, tangible. One article highlights a nationwide Kokishi doll competition.
Ah, yes. What I loved about that one was the story about the craftsman from Fukushima. He won the top prize.
I remember that.
And his joy was just like palpable. You could really feel it.
It is a nice reminder that with all this tech, there's still something so special about craftsmanship, you know? I actually tried pottery once years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, disaster. Let's just say my mug ended up looking more like a melted blob.
Yeah.
I think I'm better off appreciating art than trying to create it.
Ah, I hear you. So speaking of appreciating art, you sent in some pieces about things going on in Japan right now. There's news about bluefin tuna sushi being offered at like insanely low prices.
Yep.
Almost too good to be true.
That caught my eye, too.
And then there are those special events happening for fans of the Takarazuka Review.
Wait, the Takarazuka review, what's that?
Oh, it's incredible. It's an all-female musical theater troupe. They've been performing for over a century, known for their elaborate costumes, dramatic storylines,
Wow,
and the fact that all the roles, male and female, are played by women.
that's amazing. I had no idea. I'd love to see that someday.
Oh, you should.
Okay, and I also saw you flagged some classic anime films that are being offered online for free.
Right. Amazing opportunity to check out some classics.
Totally. Okay, shifting gears a bit. There's a report in here about the top 50 travel startups worldwide. It's so encouraging to see the travel industry bouncing back like this since the pandemic.
This Travel 50 report really digs into that whole post-pandemic landscape. Pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I gotta say, reading through all this, I'm definitely feeling the travel bug. I'm picturing myself walking through those, like, ancient temples in Kyoto, eating all that delicious street food, maybe even catching a glimpse of Mount Fuji. It's great to see travel becoming more accessible again.
Japan's definitely ready to welcome visitors. Speaking of which, you also included a list of art exhibitions happening right now. Lots to see.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. I'm ready to expand those artistic horizons. What did you find interesting?
Well, there's the Louise Bourgeois retrospective at the Mori Art Museum. She's an incredible sculptor and installation artist. Her work's really thought-provoking.
Oh, I have to check that out.
Then we have the Panasonic Shiodome Museum, which is currently focusing on the Belle Epoque, that like era of beauty and optimism in France before World War I.
That sounds beautiful.
And then there's this one that really caught my eye, the mosquito net exhibition at the National Museum.
Wait, but an exhibition all about mosquito nets.
Yep.
I'm weirdly intrigued. What could that even be about?
Right. It makes you wonder about the creative possibilities in even the most like mundane objects, and it speaks to the playful, often surprising nature of contemporary art.
Totally. Speaking of unexpected, one article that really made me think was about an award-winning British building, the Centenary Building,
Oh, yeah.
that's going to be demolished after only 30 years.
I know, right?
It seems like such a waste, especially for a building that was considered groundbreaking.
Yeah, there's been a lot of controversy around that decision. Many people want to see it preserved, this important piece of history, but it really highlights that constant tension between new development and preserving our architectural heritage. It's a debate happening everywhere.
It definitely raises questions about sustainability and our relationship with the built environment, for sure. Okay, now we're going from a building facing demolition to a city full of architectural gems.
Yes.
Another piece you sent highlights Osaka's most photogenic architecture, the Umeda Sky Building with its futuristic floating garden observatory.
Oh, the Umeda Sky Building. What a marvel of engineering. And of course, we can't forget Osaka Station City, that bustling hub with the incredible glass roof.
True, true. But can we talk about the Nakanoshima Museum of Art for a second? That
Oh.
sleek, minimalist design. Stunning. Just a perfect example of contemporary architecture.
I do love that one, but I have a soft spot for the ornate details and historical significance of that building on Tottenbury Bridge.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Completely different era and style, but the charm is undeniable.
It's so fascinating how our own, like, preferences and backgrounds shape how we see things, don't you think?
Absolutely. Speaking of style, let's move on to the fashion world. You sent an article about the must-have fall fashion items according to top editors. We're talking Louis Vuitton, Prada, Miu Miu, Balenciaga.
All the big names. I may not be a fashion expert, but I do appreciate good style, although keeping up with all the trends can be a little overwhelming.
That's where the idea of quiet luxury comes in. Investing in timeless, high-quality pieces that, go beyond fleeting trends. It's about that understated elegance, craftsmanship over logos.
Quiet luxury.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Definitely more my style. And speaking of global fashion, one article highlights the rise of Macau.
Right. Becoming a major player even has their own Macau Fashion Festival now,
That's cool.
showcasing emerging designers like Karen Chan.
I admire that kind of creativity.
She's known for blending traditional Chinese elements with contemporary designs, really pushing boundaries.
Now, if only I had a fraction of her fashion sense.
Well, we all have our strengths, right? Speaking of strengths, let's shift gears for a bit, dive into something that affects us all.
Okay, sounds good.
Healthcare. You sent an article about the Japanese healthcare system, specifically their My Number system.
Oh, yeah.
Basically a national ID number that they're linking to all sorts of services, healthcare included.
Right, the My Number system. It's been making headlines, especially with the whole health insurance card integration coming up. To be honest, though, I'm still a bit fuzzy on how it all works.
Yeah, it's a pretty big change for how they're managing healthcare information over there. The idea is to create a more centralized, efficient system so everyone gets a unique My Number.
Makes sense.
And you can use it for all sorts of things, healthcare, social security, taxes, the whole shebang.
Wow. So no more carrying around multiple cards or filling out endless forms.
Exactly, that's the goal. Streamline everything.
I can see how that would be super convenient.
Mm-hmm.
But I also imagine there are some, concerns about privacy and security with a system like that.
Oh, absolutely. Those concerns have definitely been raised. People are worried about data breaches, misuse of personal information, all of that.
Right, right.
The government's put security measures in place, of course, trying to safeguard the data, but it's definitely an ongoing discussion, finding that balance between efficiency and protecting privacy.
It's a tough one, for sure. Okay, let's lighten things up a bit, talk about something a little more fun, shall we? Entertainment. One of your articles mentions the K-pop group Twice.
Ah, yes, Twice. Huge following in Japan and worldwide, for that matter.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Not really my genre, though.
They're known for their catchy pop tunes, high-energy performances. The article highlights their recent world tour ended with a massive concert at Nissan Stadium in Japan.
Wow, that's huge. I can only imagine the energy in that stadium. Music really does have the power to bring people together, huh?
It truly does. Universal language.
Speaking of global events, what about sports? You included some pieces about the World Baseball Classic.
Oh, yeah. Always a thrilling tournament.
Baseball's huge in Japan, and their national team, Samurai Japan, they're a force to be reckoned with. I bet the competition was intense.
Oh, definitely. The article really captured their journey, the whole tournament, all that dedication, skill, and of course, the incredible fan support.
I love that. It really shows the passion and national pride around baseball in Japan. It's like that for so many sports, isn't it? Those big events just draw people in.
Completely agree. The thrill of the game, nothing like it. Speaking of high-octane competition, your sources also mentioned Formula One racing.
Oh, right.
Apparently, F1's thinking about a rotating race schedule could bring more races to Asia.
Now that would be something. Imagine those cars. The speed, the sound on a track in Japan. The atmosphere would be electric.
It would be a sight to see, for sure. And it shows how F1's appeal is growing worldwide. I wonder how a Japanese Grand Prix would be received, considering Japan's history with motorsports and their dedicated fans.
Yeah, that's a good point. Before we move on, there's one last thing I just got to ask about. Winter sandals. Is that a real thing?
Apparently so.
Mm.
The article mentioned brands like Crocs and Sucoke now offering sandals specifically designed for colder weather. Stylish and comfy, perfect for those quick errands when you don't want to wear full-on boots.
Interesting. I'll have to check those out. You know, it's amazing how this deep dive has taken us all over the place, hasn't it? We've gone from AI-designed game characters to sustainable skyscrapers, from travel to Japanese art and culture and healthcare, even winter sandals.
It really shows how diverse and dynamic Japanese society is, wouldn't you say? And it makes you think about how these trends reflect those bigger changes happening, not just in Japan, but globally.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting to see some connections, like how technology is being used in healthcare, the whole My Number thing.
Yeah,
We're seeing that kind of stuff in various forms all over the world.
exactly.
And the growing popularity of K-pop in Japan, it shows how connected we are through music and entertainment, crossing borders.
It really highlights how Japan's navigating globalization and tech while still holding on to its own unique culture.
For sure. Speaking of culture, One PC Flag mentioned that the iconic New Year's Eve countdown in Shibuya, Tokyo, got canceled again this year.
Oh, that's right. Sad to see that tradition go.
I remember seeing pictures of those massive crowds at Shibuya Crossing. Must have been quite the experience.
It was a spectacle, but yeah, managing that many people in a packed area like that, definitely safety concerns.
Yeah, I get it. It's a good reminder that even when we're celebrating, got to prioritize safety and well-being.
Absolutely. Always finding that balance.
Okay, before we wrap up this exploration of all things Japan, there's one more article I wanted to touch on. It's about a really unique architectural project.
Oh yes, this one's pretty interesting. Architects designing a skyscraper powered entirely by renewable energy.
Wait, what? A skyscraper running on, like, solar and wind?
The whole works. Solar panels, wind turbines, geothermal energy systems. It's designed to generate more energy than it consumes, so a net zero energy structure.
That's incredible. What a powerful example of how architecture can be part of the solution, addressing environmental concerns, promoting sustainable living.
It really gives you hope seeing that kind of innovation.
It really does. It's amazing,
Yeah.
Really shows what's possible when we put our minds to it.
Right.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
From like AI-designed game characters to skyscrapers running on renewable energy.
And everything in between.
Seriously, the resurgence of travel, Japanese art and culture, it's been quite the journey.
It really has. And you've given us such a great snapshot of what's going on in Japan these days. It's fascinating how all these, seemingly different things we've talked about, they're all connected in a way, wouldn't you say?
Oh, totally. They reflect those bigger changes and trends shaping Japanese society, I think. What about you? What stood out to you the most from all this? Anything that really resonated or sparked a new interest?
That's a good question. For me, I think it's those stories where tradition meets innovation.
Oh, I see that.
Like the Kakeshi doll competition happening alongside the AI-designed game character.
Right.
Or Karen Chan, blending those traditional Chinese elements into modern fashion. It's that fusion of old and new that I find so captivating.
Me too. I totally get that. It speaks to how dynamic culture really is, always changing, but also holding on to its roots. That push and pull between tradition and progress is what makes exploring these topics so fascinating.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It gives me a sense of optimism, seeing how tradition can not only coexist with, but actually inspire innovation. That's pretty cool. Well, I think it's safe to say this deep dive has given us plenty to ponder.
Absolutely. And remember, the exploration doesn't end here. If something piqued your interest, keep digging. Maybe check out one of those art exhibitions online.
Yeah, or try some of that ridiculously cheap bluefin tuna sushi we were talking about.
Or maybe you'll find yourself dreaming of a trip to Japan, strolling through those architectural wonders in Osaka, or catching a glimpse of Mount Fuji. Whatever it may be, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and given you a fresh perspective on, well, everything Japan.
I think it's safe to say it has.
Remember, there's always more to discover, so keep those curious minds engaged and keep exploring.
Until next time, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.